different starting this time. I'm actually out just taking a little cruise in Big John, and you know, I don't get to drive this truck a whole lot, so I figured I'd get out running around for a little bit, try to kind of figure out some of the things I might need to look at on it, because Big John's on the docket for today. So so I'm gonna get out here. I'm gonna drive around for just a little while, not very long, just a little cruise, little leisurely cruise. So I'm just gonna roll it around for a little bit, kind of listen, check some stuff, you know, feel some things as I'm kind of driving around, make sure that everything is ready to go, and stuff that, you know, might need some attention I can take a look at. So so anyhow, I'm gonna finish up my little cruise here, and then I'm gonna head back over to the house, and we'll see y'all in the shop. All right, so back at the shop. Had a nice little cruise, you know. Been needing to take Big John out and just ride him for a little while. Just kind of fill it out, figure out some of the things I need to focus on. You know, I plan on taking Big John to Battle and Bama down in Mobile. That's a pretty good drive. It's also going through Birmingham, and Birmingham's roads are horrible. So, so there's a few things I need to address on the truck. First and foremost, the thing that's probably going to take the longest is cleaning this guy up and making the paint look okayish. So if you don't remember about Big John is my 1990 R3500. This guy, I've got a switch 6/8 suspension on it, so 6 inches up front, 8 inch in the rear, with a axle flip. I've also got the helper airbags in the back, in case I want to tow or haul something, so I can raise the rear end up and down as needed. Originally, this truck, bought it for 1,800 bucks. I think about 2 years ago, something like that. Let's see, it was bone stock. I'll throw some pictures somewhere. It was a bone stock truck. It kind of ran, had the TBI stuff on it. It was all messed up, so it was running full bore all the time. And this guy, we ended up swapping out the intake, put a distributor in it, putting a carb on it, and making it run. Just, you know, got rid of the old TBI stuff. Made it run and took it out for its inaugural drive and spun, I think, 3 rod bearings. It's a factory 454 turbo 400 truck. Spun 3 rod bearings on its maiden voyage. Limped it back to the house, parked it up, bought a replacement motor, and slapped that guy in here. So now it's got a fresh motor in it. It's probably got 7,000 or 8,000 miles on it, something like that. Still runs good, drives pretty good. Couple things on the truck is, yeah, the paint's jacked up on this thing. It's had a respray somewhere in its life, and you know, paint's flaking off, like up here on the roof. The paint's just, you know, it's just coming off. Of course, you know, we've got paint's gone here and a couple random spots along on the doors. You know, this truck had a hard life. It was originally, I think, a farmer had it up in Kentucky, if I remember correctly. It was, then it got sold to a roofing company. Roofing company had it. A lot of nails everywhere. I'm still finding roofing nails. The place I bought it from was a tow company. Actually, it's a mechanic shop, and they use it for repoing. It's had a various use life. So anyhow, got this truck, love this truck. It's a great, I really enjoy driving this thing. It's pretty comfortable drive. The biggest complaint that I have on, after dropping it and doing all that, yes, they're not going to ride like they did stock. I understand that. But apparently, whenever you order 3-inch drop springs for these, I don't know who the spring manufacturer is. I think it was through Beltec. I want to say it's through Beltec. It may have been like Western Chassis, or I can't think of the other one. I guess they think all spring rates are the same, so it's got basically a half-ton spring rate on the coil springs for the front. So it bottoms out a lot. a lot. So and it also it makes this thing just difficult as hell to drive, you know, at interstate speeds. So I've ordered new, I think they're a Moog 6454. So any of y'all out there with 1-ton truck, The Moog 6454, if I remember correctly, is the correct coil spring for this truck. I think the spring rate's 1,100 and some odd pounds, where the half-ton trucks is something like 700 and something pounds. So anyway, so I've ordered new springs. Of course, they're on back order, like everything. So what I planned on doing is I'm gonna take the new springs. Everything I've read says cut a coil spring off, it drops at about 3 inches. So that's what I'm gonna end up doing. They're on back order, so I don't have them, so I can't do that today. But today I figure I'll do the biggest part, which is cleaning up the outside. Doing this thing needs buffing something fierce. You know, black. It's a great color when it's clean, but this one's. I washed it last week. It needs a good chamois just to get the dust off of it from being outside. But you can kind of see, maybe, I don't know if it's going to translate well to video, but you can kind of see it's kind of chalky. It's still got a decent shine to it. Some of the doors, like these back doors, are really bad. But you can kind of see, yeah, you can kind of see how chalky they are. Like, I can sit there and rub on one spot and so yeah, you can see where I rubbed it, kind of cleaned it up a little bit. So it's kind of splotchy and chalky and throughout the truck. Unfortunately, these guys are just about out of paint. So ain't much saving on these. Plus, these guys are all just busted all to pieces. It was broke when I got it. Funny thing is, I have a new set of dually fenders for it, sitting up there on a shelf. They're gonna have to be painted and cleaned up, you know, your little bodywork stuff you got to do to fiberglass crap, and get them painted, get them put on here. Well, if I do that, then, you know, I've got little bits of paint popping off right around there. So I'm gonna want to fix that, which means, well, if I fix that, I might as well shoot the bed. Well, if I shoot the bed, I might as well shoot the truck. So, so that's why I still haven't put the brand new fenders on there. But that's kind of what my thought was today. Go through, I'm going to do I'm not going to do like a full-on cut, like using the wool pad. I didn't get any of my stuff out, but I usually use, it's an 800 grit buffing compound. When I really want to dig on something, I'll get in there with the wool pad and this 800 grit stuff, and it'll take some paint. But, and then follow it up a couple of different stages with some polish and then some swirl remover, and knock it down to some foam pads and really bring it out. This thing ain't got a whole lot of paint left in certain spots, so I don't want to go digging with that 800 grit. So I'm just going to polish on it, which should take care of a lot of it. There's a few spots, they just ain't gonna, there ain't no helping them. Like right here, I don't know what's going on here, but you can tell there's a layer of paint, there's a layer of paint, and it's just, there ain't much I can do there other than pull this cowl off and reshoot it. But then again, if I pull that off and reshoot it, where does it stop? One of the other things I need to address is last year, Southeastern Truck headed out on day 2 of Southeastern Truck. Running up 840, headed out to the Nashville Speedway, Lebanon Fairgrounds. I get all my things mixed up. Loud pop, huge bang, weird noises, a lot of vibration. I'm like, what in the hell just happened? I thought I blew a tire. Nope, didn't blow a tire. I blew a fan blade off my freaking fan, and it did that nice little hole right here in the hood. And then it also, I don't know if you can kind of see, you can kind of see where it dented and kind of bowed everything up right in here. Yeah, there's another big outward dent right here too. Plus this, and just kind of being funny, I took a paint pen and wrote ouch on it. But this little edge on this guy is damn near razor sharp. So I figure I'm gonna knock that down. I'll probably put a little weld on it just to kind of clean it up, and then try to work this down and try to, you know, straighten this up a little bit. And I'll probably just shoot it with a little bit of spray paint just to keep it from rusting. I do plan on putting a cowl hood on this truck, but yeah, plenty of other projects keeping me busy and taking all my money. So, looking at you, Blazer. So, I know I said I was going to get started on the Pontiac. I understand that. I've got parts. I'm waiting to get started on the Pontiac. I want to get cracking on that guy, but the problem is once it comes in, it's going to be in here for a hot minute. And so, I kind of have a general rule that I don't put two non-running vehicles in the shop. The Blazer runs, but not very well. Plus, it puked out all of its training fluid, so I don't know if it moves. The Pontiac has no motor, no trans. Still hunting for a motor trans for that, or just a motor, or a donor vehicle, something. Not running into too much at the moment. I got a couple things I might jump on, might go for, not sure. So with it not moving under its own power, it's a pain in the butt to go shuffling stuff around in the driveway, pulling in and out non-running vehicles, all that stuff. So I'm holding off on that so I can get a few other things done. So like, you know, Big John needs some attention. So I figure go ahead and give him some attention, get that done this weekend. Steve needs some attention, but I plan on driving Big John a little bit more this year than I did last year. Last year was kind of Steve's year. I just drove Steve around everywhere. Plus, I love driving that truck. I love driving this truck too, but it's a little thirsty. So I plan on driving Big John to a few more things this year than I did last year. So I want to make sure and get him all cleaned up and ready to go. Steve is probably going to hang out over there, and then worst case, Steve's going to donate his powertrain to the Pontiac for the time being. And then maybe Steve gets put up next to be rust repaired. God, I love rust. Anyways, so enough jaw flapping. I think I'm gonna get over here. I gotta get a bucket of some water and get my chamois out, get this guy toweled off real quick, and then get started with the buffer. And I'll give y'all some pointers on how I buff. You know, I know there's a lot of folks out there that run buffers and do all that stuff. Like I said, I think last week I run a buffer for, you know, since I was like 15-ish. So it may not be technically correct, but it gets the job done and it looks pretty damn good afterwards. So anyhow, I guess I'm gonna go get a bucket of water and drag out all my crap and get ready to get started. So I'll be back in just a minute. All right, well, I actually started thinking about it. I was like, well, instead of going ahead and shaming this guy off, why don't I go ahead and address this? You know, I figure I can go ahead and try to work this down. That metal got stretched pretty good, so I don't know if that's going to go all the way away. Even if it doesn't, that's okay. And then I can at least get this piece kind of knocked down and try to work some of this bump out of here. So, not looking for perfection, you know, obviously. So, all right, let's, I apologize if the camera's a little shaky because I don't have a good place to put this while I'm doing this, so. That'll work good enough for me. Pull y'all back up here. This guy's gonna be a little bit more tricky because I got that ridge to deal with. All right, let's see. Where's that at? There he is. What a pain. Yeah, you can see how wonderful this paint job is, because it just, you know, flakes right up. So it actually doesn't even look like they scuffed it underneath. It looks like they just, you know, shot it on whatever was on there. The really bad thing about this paint being as bad as it is it's hard to get a feel for exactly where it's high and where it's low on the metal. So yeah, that just adds another challenge to it. But we're definitely high still there and coming up here in this middle. So let's work on that. So I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I don't believe I'm going to even worry about welding that up and trying to clean this up anymore. I probably won't even deal with putting any paint on it, to be honest with you. Mainly because if I go trying to dress this up and make this look better, it's just going to end up looking like crap. Either way you go about it, it looks like hell. Only way to really fix this is going to be to basically sand the hood down or strip it, take it back down to metal, prime it, you know, scuff it, shoot it, you know, all that fun crap. So then you run into the same old problem of, well, this is painted, and where does it stop? Do I keep painting? Do I keep, you know, doing stuff? So I do plan on painting this truck eventually. It's just, that's a lot of paint. That's a lot of prep. That's a lot of work. So, because this is a lot of truck. I want to say I read somewhere it takes about 2 gallons of paint to paint one of these crew cab long bed dualies. And I've kind of toyed with maybe turning this into a short bed, crew cab short bed dually. So until I decide what I'm going to do there, I'm not going to worry about painting it. So I think I'm just going to leave this, as is. I'm not going to worry about welding this up, because then you got to grind it and clean it all up and make it look all pretty, and it's going to look like hell right here anyways. So the big kicker for me is it doesn't have that sharp metal edge right there that, I was sitting there and watch people at the shows, Cars and Coffee events and stuff like that, and they'd see ouch, and they'd see the arrow, and then they'd immediately go like this, and then you see them yank their hand back because they damn near cut it on that edge. So now I don't have to worry about that. They can come over here and do this, and they can rub their face on it if they want to. I don't care, but it's not going to cut them. So, so anyways, that's good enough for me. So, yeah. Now, let's get the chamois out, wipe this guy down, and get to buffing. So, I'll catch back up here in a minute. All right, so went digging in my cabinet and drug out dang near all my buffing and polishing stuff. Just kind of show you what's out there, maybe the right situations to use things, and then what I'm actually going to use today. So let's get started. Everybody got their thinking caps on? So anyways, so I know a lot of y'all have probably heard of high-speed buffers, all that fun stuff. So my high-speed buffer, I don't know how long I've had this thing. It's a Makita. It's an adjustable, so you can see there's the adjustment. It's got a little heft to it. What is this thing? It's 10 amp, so it's got a pretty healthy little motor in it. That thing will scoot. Big thing is you don't really want it to scoot. The faster it goes, the more friction it's going to create. Then you're talking about burning paint and literally just blitzing through all layers of paint straight down to the primer, or even worse, the metal surface. So the name of the game here is quick but not fast, if that makes sense. You don't want it turning so slow to where it's just barely chugging along. I usually have mine set around 2.5, 3 on the little number wheel. I don't know how many RPM that is. This guy, can't remember if it actually lists how many RPM it goes to. No, it doesn't. Whatever. I know it'll scoot though. So when using a high-speed buffer, and all that is it's literally, it's like a angle grinder. It just spins one direction and it doesn't do any movement. It's just literally just a circle that spins. So whenever you're doing like your heavier cutting and stuff, always go with the wool pad. So if you've wet sanded stuff, like when I first got this truck, it was real chalky. So I went through, I wet sanded the whole truck down, came back and got it with a wool pad. Fun part about wool pads is, especially new ones, is they shed. So be prepared, you're going to sneeze a lot because you're going to have little bits of fuzz everywhere. So they have a little Velcro backing on them. A big key on here is to keep the pad clean. You don't want it too loaded up with too much compound and other crap in there, because as it loads up, yeah, it's going to be a little wet, but it's going to have a lot more grit making contact with the paint. So they actually make little tools. It kind of looks like a little spur on a handle that you can sit there and you can roll, and it'll fluff it up, so to speak. As you can probably tell, I've used a screwdriver for many years, and I mean, you can see how polished the tip of this guy is. So all I do is just sit there and just back and forth it a few times. You don't want to push down. You just want to catch it in the wool and knock all the crap loose on it. That helps keep your pad clean, gives you a little bit better result. So that would be for like heavy oxidation. Again, taking care of wet sand marks and really having to get in there and dig on it. And usually whenever I'm using the wool pad, I'm using this stuff, which is the Super Duty rubbing compound. I believe this is around 800 grit, if I remember correctly. I don't remember, but this stuff works great. It's just liquid sandpaper basically, so it's like an 800 grit sandpaper that's just getting done really fast, but not too fast. So next are the foam pads. So you got different degrees of foam pads, basically based off of how porous they are and how rough the material is. Like in this little set I just bought off of Amazon. So you can see it even tells you on the back, red your heavy cut, orange medium cut, blue light cut, green soft polish, black final finish. So I just kind of laid these out. That's not black, that's green. That's just last time I did this truck, I used that pad at the very end. So, you know, red is definitely more coarse. The foam is definitely firmer. And then you move over this, they call this orange, but it's actually yellow. It's not as firm. It's definitely a lot squishier than the red. And the pores on it are a little bit more closed. And again, you get to a little bit lighter, definitely more closed in foam, and it just continues on the same thing. And actually, as you go on back over here to the polishing ones, they start firming back up. And that's probably because the foam, the cells are getting really, really small. So they're just a little bit more, you know, a little bit more solid. So that's kind of what you use whenever you're using a high speed. Generally starting off with, like I said, if you're having to do heavy oxidation, heavy, or not so heavy, but wet sand marks, stuff like that, you'll want a good cutting compound or super duty rubbing compound. That's kind of key, is rubbing compound. And then a good wool pad. That'll get you your best bang for the buck. But you have to be careful, again, so you don't burn through the paint. The other bad thing about a high-speed buffer is swirl marks. Since it's only going one direction and it's quite aggressive, it will leave swirl marks. The darker the paint, the worse the swirl marks are going to show up. Black truck, I still have swirl marks. Mainly because I just ran through it really quick, polished it up, and was like, man, that looks great, let's go ride. So, so I didn't take my time with it. I did go back and polish on it a little bit to try to pull some of those swirls out. It got some of them, but not all of them. So there's still a few spots where I still see swirl marks. But swirl marks is a big thing. And basically all that is you have scratched the paint in a circular pattern, so to speak. So now you have to work to take more layers of paint down, not like big layers, just microscopic smaller layers, or technically scratch it a little bit less or a little bit more in finer detail every single time to work swirl marks out. Like I said, darker the paint, the more they show up. So if you got a white car, you can have swirl marks all on that thing. You ain't hardly gonna see them. Black, totally the opposite end of the spectrum, you're gonna see every damn swirl mark there is. So also on a high-speed buffer, you see people take, you know, you see people take their buffer, you know, and I've only got two hands, so I can't, you know, show everything here, but they'll sit there and they'll run it like hardcore at a hard angle like that. Well, that's focusing all that into one little contact patch. You want to keep it, you can't keep it flat because it's going to dance all over the place and be out of control, but you want just a little bit of angle to it. And you don't want to push down. You don't ever want to press, because then you're creating more friction, and it's just going to cause more problems down the road. Deeper swirl marks, burning paint, all that stuff. Pretty much, this guy weighs enough, and if you start pushing down on top of it, you're going to smoke your paint out really, really bad. So generally, you let the weight of the machine handle the pressure. Now, I used to do some paint touch-up work where we were actually buffing out scuffs and scratches, you know, light scratches and clear coat and stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes you'd have to dig a little bit if it's a really deep scratch, not all the way down into the base color, but just in the clear coat. So sometimes you might have to dig a little bit, but those times are few and far between. Generally, just let the machine put the weight on it, and then you just want to keep it, you don't want it just flat. You just want it just at a slight angle, so that way you can control it. So if it's flat, it's literally going to be just catching and bouncing all over the place. But if it's just got a slight angle, you'll be able to sit there and just, you know, ride it back and forth exactly where you're wanting it to be. And then if you're going too steep of an angle, you got too much of a contact patch going, you're going to see swirl marks like crazy, and you're going to have burnt spots, and it's just going to be a mess. So just some tips there, you know, from what I've learned and how I actually operate, you know, a high-speed buffer. High-speed buffing is not for everybody. Don't go thinking, oh, hell yeah, I know Matt said this. I got this. Yeah, find you something you don't care so much about and practice on it first. Be it an old piece of, old fender or something. I heard somebody one time say, if you're wanting to learn how to buff, go to a junkyard, buy a fender or door or something, take it home and work on it and buff on it and keep buffing on it. That way you learn your machine, you learn how it reacts with the paint and all that stuff. That's great little tip right there. Because I mean, fenders are what, 30 bucks, 40 bucks, something like that. It's much better to spend 30 or 40 bucks, smoke the paint on a junkyard fender than it is to smoke the paint in the middle of your hood on your truck or car or whatever it is that you drive that you really enjoy and you're proud of. So, so yeah, take that as a, just a little note. If you've never run a high speed, get you something to practice on first, or do it on your wife's car. Doing the wool pad, doing the red pad, and I wouldn't recommend going to the orange or the medium cut. I wouldn't recommend using the rubbing compound down on this. That's going to be for your hard cuts. So that's a hard cut only. When you move on down, then you're going to want to go to a cutting compound. So this is, I don't know what grit this is. It's a lot finer. I don't know if it actually says on here, but it's a lot finer grit. And it's just a cutting compound. It's a finishing polish. Those are two key things. So you see rubbing compound, that's going to be gritty as hell. That's going to chew some paint. You go to a polishing and a cutting compound, that's going to be a lot finer, and it's not going to get into the paint as much. So this is what you would use coming into the lighter colored pads. And you don't have to go wool pad, red pad, orange, yellow, blue, green, and black. You don't have to literally follow this along. This is kind of laid out to where you can go, okay, hardcore scratches, I'm doing that. I'm doing it with the wool pad. I'm going to get it knocked out. I'm going to clean it up really nice with this wool pad. Then you're going to wash the vehicle. After you wash the vehicle to get all that old rubbing compound and crap off of it, there's a lot of washing involved here. So after you do this guy, you're going to want to wash it, get all that heavy rubbing compound off. Then you can skip right on down to over here if you want. If it's still really, it's got a lot of swirls and stuff like that, you could go to the mid. I think I used this guy. I mean, obviously I used it, but I don't recall what I used it on. But I think I was testing these out because I'd never really messed with the foam pads a whole lot prior to. So you could go down to the polishing compound and hit here, or even come all the way down here, depending on how hard you had to work the paint with the wool pad or this guy. Basically each one of these is going to offer a little bit different, cutting on the paint surface. So go to your polishing compound. You could actually use the polishing compound on a couple of these. You could use it here and here just to bring it down a little bit, or just jump straight to here and go ahead and try to work it out that way. Because you still got another couple layers to go after that. Because after that, you can still use your polishing compound all the way down here on this green, because that is your, what is it called, the light polish, soft polish. So come on down to the green, you can still use that polishing compound on this color, on the lighter, the lighter polishing pad, if I can get the words out of my mouth. So you can still use that on here, and that'll be just fine. And then whenever you come down to the black pad or the finishing pad, I usually end up going to like the Turtle Wax, their clean finish polishing compound. This stuff, it might as well not have any type of grit to it. It might have some, but it ain't much. But I usually use this stuff whenever I get to the final stage. And then after all that's said and done, then I'll come back and I'll just throw just some regular wax on it. And these are just products. I don't necessarily recommend or disagree with any of these. These are just products that I have that I've bought over the years. And, I still use them, in different situations. So yeah. So once you get done polishing it out, getting all the polishing done, then you can come back and you'll want to hand wax it with, something light. I like this stuff, this Best of Show wax. It's really good. I think they had it at O'Reilly's, but I like this stuff. It was really good. You could also get, I know this is Turtle Wax polishing compound, but you could get some just regular old Turtle Wax, or some of the Meguiar's, wax, and then just use their little, you know, microfiber applicator to put it on there. And you can use a microfiber towel to come back and wipe the wax off. I just use old bath towels, you know, so I've got a bunch of old bath towels that got holes and rips and everything like that. Yeah, those go out to the shop because I use those for whenever I'm waxing and cleaning and buffing and everything. So I guess that kind of sorts it out on the high-speed buffer. Again, this is not a comprehensive thing. This is just kind of a high level. This is how I do it. Like I said, I'm putting a disclaimer in here because I don't want somebody roaching their paint and going, hey, you owe me a paint job. Hey, I don't owe you nothing, man. I am telling you what I do, and I've had a lot of experience doing this. So, like I said, practice if you're not sure. Get you something old that you can work on and fiddle with it that way. So, another option would be if it's just slightly oxidized and it's not too terrible. That's where this turtle wax polishing compound. I like this stuff because it's the solid wax. I like that stuff for whenever you just got a little bit of oxidation and you just kind of want to clean it up a little bit. And then that's just, you know, applied by hand. You don't have to do any machinery with that. You can do that if it's just a little faded and a little chalky looking, not real chalky, but a little chalky. That stuff should pull it back out. Again, you put it all on there, you let it dry up really good. You come back and you take it off with a towel or a microfiber. Just you make sure whatever you use is clean and doesn't have, you know, like dried up paint on it or something like that that's just going to come back and scuff the paint or scratch it as you're cleaning and wiping stuff back down. So you know, and if you do the hand polish, you know, if you come back and you polish with this guy, just be sure and follow it up with either a cleaner wax, you know, like this guy. This is pretty much just wax. And then this is just wax. So you can follow it up with either one of those, put your, you know, coat on there, let it dry up, and then polish it back off. And be sure and wash it in between, so that way you get any and all residues off. That's the big key, is cleaning the paint before you go to buffing on it. So technically I probably should have pulled this out, washed it, and then dried it off, and then started doing on this polishing that I'm fixing to do. But I just washed it last week. It's just been sitting out in the driveway. I drove it for a half hour, 45 minutes today, so it hadn't got a whole lot of road grime and filth on it, so I wasn't too worried about it. Plus the paint's kind of crap on it anyways. So wasn't too terribly worried about it, so that's why I just shamed this guy off. So that'll pretty much wrap it up for the high-speed polisher. Now let's move over here to this little guy. So this little guy's a lot lighter, and this is a dual action polisher. So it works like a DA sander. So the head, you know, this part spins and then the whole thing spins as well. That helps to eliminate your swirl marks, because now you have multiple directions. You're not getting just that one pattern all the time. So it's kind of like a DA sander in the way that it works. So, and again, these guys come in a lot of different flavors. As a matter of fact, I think I got this on Amazon. I think. Yeah. I don't know what that says, but that's what I got. If I can find it, I'll put a link to it down in the description. To Amazon. I'm pretty sure that's where I bought this. But anyways, again, this guy, he doesn't have a trigger like the other one. This one just has a on-off switch. But you don't want to run it at full bore. Again, don't run them at full bore. You've got, this one has an adjustment right there on the hilt, so you can adjust the speed down to where you need it to be. So these guys work out really, really well. And again, we also have similar on the pads. We've got, you know, heavy cut, medium cut, and then a final polish. And these are very firm, medium firm, very squishy. Squishy. So for these guys, you don't want to use the big, you know, heavy duty rubbing compound stuff. That's not what these are for. I'm sure you could probably get away with it, but it probably would not be advantageous to do that. You probably at the most would want to use one of these polishing compounds. And actually today, I'm probably not even going to use the heavy pad. I'm probably just going to go straight to the medium pad and then the final polish pad. So, so I'm just going to use, like, you know, one of these polishing compounds, whichever one I have the most of, with this medium pad. And then I'm going to follow it up with, I'll probably use this stuff here first, and then come over and use this stuff second, and then I'll put a coat of wax on it. So it's a 3-stage process just to kind of clean this paint up. It's not going to make it perfect, but it'll make it good enough. So So anyways, again, you don't want to put a lot of pressure. You want to let the machine put the weight on. This thing is not nearly as heavy as the high-speed buffer. But you don't want a lot of weight because you're not really digging on the paint. You're just trying to polish the top layer of paint out. So again, you don't want to just sit there and just mash down on it. You want to just kind of let it do its own thing. Also, you don't want to go just flat because it's going to dance all over the place. And you don't want to go hardcore because it doesn't work right with the DA sander. It's going to be bouncing and doing all sorts of weird crap, and you're probably going to leave some swirl marks. So again, just a slight little tilt to it just to give it a little bit more control, and you can work it out and do what you need to do. Okay, everybody got that? Questions, comments? Huh? Anybody back there I see? No? Okay, cool. Everybody got it. Good deal. So, and these pads that I got these all on Amazon. Again, I'll throw a link down in the description. I think this stuff, I got that on Amazon as well. Most of the stuff I get is through Amazon, to be honest with you. So, Amazon or eBay. But you can pick up in a paint supply store. You know, I think they carry this type of stuff. Actually, I know they do because I would get this back when I did paint touch-up with my dad. He always got it from the paint supply store. You know, and just the polishing compound, the rubbing compound, the polisher. And now, back in that time frame, we only used 2 pads. We had the wool pad for the digging, and we had a foam pad for the polishing. But most of the stuff we worked on had clear coats to it, so it didn't affect it as much. So, anyways, all right, moving on. I guess I'm gonna put most of this crap back up because I'm not using half of it or 3/4 of it, and let's get started. So I went ahead and I cleaned this with my my trusty worn out Phillips head screwdriver. Basically, just turn it up, just slowly drag it back and forth. It knocks all the old crap out of there. Just kind of cleans the pad up. Quick little demonstration I guess I should do. For this, I just turn it up a good bit. So to clean it up, I turn it up a little bit. I don't run it that fast. I usually run it around 2.5, maybe 3, just depends. 2.5, 3 is kind of where I live on both the machines that I got. So yeah. So another thing, big key here. Whenever you're working one of these, always pay attention to where your power cord is. It really sucks to be buffing and this guy's sitting across the hood, and then you run it over and then it wraps up and then it yanks, and then you're just, you know, kind of in a panic like, oh dear God, what do I do here? So yeah, always pay attention to where this guy is. I usually just take it, see if I can't lean in here. I just take it and drape it over my shoulder. So that way it's always behind me. I don't have to worry about it. So yeah, little tip there. I would say ask me how I know, but I think y'all can figure that out. So, so usually whenever I'm doing these, I start from the middle, work my way out. It just makes life a little bit easier, so you're not laying back over freshly done stuff. So we're just gonna start out here in the middle of the hood, and we're gonna work our way out. I figure I'll show y'all here kind of a close-up before I go on doing the rest of the truck. Again, this paint's crap. So it might polish up a little bit better. It's not going to polish up a whole lot. My main concern though is the sides. They're pretty chalky. The hood, it's not great, as you can kind of tell from the giant ouch spot in the hood. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of show you the way I do it, just here on the hood up close, and then I'll continue on and get cranking on this thing and try to get her all knocked out. So here we go. Always shake these guys up. Make sure they're good and shook up, because if they have some grit in them, that's all going to settle at the bottom. So you want to make sure it's really good and shook up. You know, a lot of times I'll turn it upside down and kind of bang it. Try to knock all that stuff around, make it loose. I've already shook this up quite a bit off camera. But yeah, make sure you're cutting your rubbing compound, especially your cutting and your polishing compounds. Just shake them up real good. Just make sure everything in there is good and mixed up, because over time they settle, the different chemicals separate, and you know, they do the thing. So Anyways, all right, here we go. Some folks like to put it directly on the pad. I've never been a big fan of that. I like to just kind of drip it around on the body of the truck or the vehicle and catch it with the pad. That way it kind of smears it around as it goes, so that way you get a good coverage everywhere. You don't want to do like the whole half of the hood. You kind of want to separate it. You know, anytime you're working on a panel, kind of separate it into quarters, especially a big panel like the hood. So we're just going to do basically from this line, the ridge line here in the middle, and we're only going to come back about halfway back across the hood, and we're only going to go about halfway down to halfway back, you know, or all the way back to about halfway down. So we're just going to kind of quarter the hood up. That way you don't have too much out there, and you don't want to worry about your compound drying out on you before you can get to it and get it all smeared up and let it do its job. So so the way I do it is I just kind of sprinkle it in there. A little goes a long ways on this stuff. So, and I know once I turn this guy on, it's gonna be hard to hear me. So if I have any pointers as I'm going, I might stop, tell you, and then continue back on. So here we go. All right, so if you noticed at first, as I was moving one direction, I'd lean back. So if I was moving up the hood, I'd lean it back just a smidge, just to make sure it carried. And as I was coming back, I'd lean back the other way. And so just kind of carried that on until it got good. The pad got saturated a little bit, and I didn't have to worry about it hopping and skipping and bouncing me all over the place. And then alternating directions. So, you know, do a pass back and forth, you know, up and down, whatever, vertical. Yeah, we'll go vertical and then do a pass horizontal, or I got those backwards. So, so kind of vary it up because you don't want to lay patterns down, basically. And I can't find any clean bath towels, so I actually do have some microfiber towels. These are clean, they're just stained. So we're going to go back, we're going to wipe this off and see what she looks like underneath. So let's get you in here so you can kind of see what I'm seeing. Maybe. So let's see. You can kind of see it's really hard to translate this over to the camera. But you can see it's a little richer looking, a little deeper looking black. And then you come out here, it's a little chalky and a little rough looking, right? I'm hoping it translates. See if we come back a little bit. So you can kind of see the difference. By no means is this, you know, great. This is better. But I mean, you know, you just kind of look, there's our line, so that might help a little bit. So you can kind of see what it looked like before and now what it looks like after. So, you know, just a little polish real quick, and it did that. So once I come back here over here and I hit this with the polishing compound with the lighter pad, that'll bring this up a little bit deeper. Actually, we'll go ahead and do that. This didn't put as much dust out as I was thinking, so yeah, we can just wipe this off with the towel, and I'll go ahead and hit this with the next layer and show you what that looks like, and then I'll move on. All right, so now we're gonna go with this little polishing stuff from Turtle Wax. All right, here we go. All right, so that's two parts of the process done. Only thing left on here is just put a good coat of wax on it. That takes a lot longer, and I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to do the whole truck whenever I do that. But notice what we came from, roughly, to what it looks like now. Much deeper, much richer. Kind of got a little crazy with my overlap, so I kind of went a little far. But you can kind of see my line right in here. So yeah, she shined up pretty good. So the whole truck should shine up about like this. Like I said, the paint's kind of crap on this thing anyways, but we can at least, you know, we can at least polish this turd. So we're going to polish this turd up. But that's kind of what you can kind of expect. So if it's a little faded, a little chalky, a little streaky looking, it's not real bad, you can hit it with the polish stuff, with the dual action polisher instead of using the high speed, and you can get some pretty good results out of it. Like I said, high speed buffer, that's more for after wet sanding, working out really good deep scratches, things along those lines. So anyways, I'm gonna get back to it and knock out the truck. Yeah, that's gonna happen real fast. But I'm gonna get back to it and get on this thing and try to really, you know, knock this truck out. Probably gonna take a few hours because, you know, we just did that little section right there in a few minutes. That wasn't too bad. But, you know, I got to do the truck basically 3 times. 2 times with the buffer. And so we've got that entire hood and then all the way down, over, back, here, almost there. And yeah, then we got to do the tailgate too. So there's a lot to cover here. Whole lot of real estate on this old turd. So anyways, I'm gonna get to it, and I'll catch back up with y'all whenever I get done with something. So we'll see y'all here in a bit. So you know that little thing I said about making sure your, you know, towels are clean, don't have crap down in them. So this is what happens whenever they do have stuff down in them. So as I was cleaning this up, see my nice little swirls, try to catch them. Yeah, you can kind of see them. Yeah, that was because I had a piece of wood, little splinters of wood that was stuck like right in here. I already pulled them out. But a couple little pieces of wood that were stuck down in the freaking microfiber. So, yay, left little scratches. So I'll have to go back over that again. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You have to make sure your stuff's clean, or else you just totally screw up what you just finished up and leave, you know, fancy scratches in the paint. So, yeah, got to go back over that. But yeah. You son of a... So, all right, back to it. right. Man, it's a lot of work. So I've officially gotten a little more than half of the truck done. So I figured for time's sake and, you know, your guys' sake that I wouldn't film me doing the entire truck because it's literally the same thing over and over and over again. So I was like, you know what? I'll make it a little bit quicker. I'll just do half the truck. So since I have a little bit more room over here on the passenger side, I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and just knock out the passenger side, film all that, and you can use your imagination on the driver's side. It's basically the exact same thing. So yeah, went through, you know, did the polish with a little bit more aggressive pad on the hood, and then did all the way down the sides. On the roof of the truck, I didn't go very far in because really the paint's only okay on this outer edge. Once you get to the center, there's no paint, or it's spray paint. So I'm not going buff spray paint. So so did that across the entire truck, or at least passenger side. Wiped all that down. You know, again, make sure your towel's clean. I tried buffing that spot back out on the hood. It came out a little bit, but I was like, you know what, it's good enough. So then came back with the what is that, the turtle wax polishing stuff. Did that with the finer pad. Again, went over this whole half of the truck. And then after that, I used whatever this stuff is. I don't even remember what this stuff's called. Best of Show wax. Best of Show. Use that stuff. Put it on there with a little terry cloth pad. They sell these at like the parts houses. They're super cheap. I think there was like 3 for $5 or something like that. I actually got to buy more because that was my last one. So basically all I did there was I put a little bit on the pad. I dabble it around in the area that I was getting ready to put the wax on. And then I go through and smear the wax on. Circular motions, wax on, you know, Mr. Miyagi stuff.
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand.
So went through, did that, put it all over the entire truck, and was like, all right, well, I gotta let this sit and cure out and dry, so I could go work on the other side, or I can go get some supper. So I went and got some supper, and I spent about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, go grab a bite to eat, come back home, or went out to get food, came back home, ate the food, and just kind of hung out for about, you know, maybe an hour and a half, and let it dry up good, and then came out here and just like you do with wax, use a good soft cloth. I think I used a, whatever those are, the microfiber pads. I've got it somewhere. Just use a microfiber pad, just come back and basically buff the wax off. So, like I said, hadn't touched the driver's side, but passenger side, all I got to do here is put the mirror back on. But, yeah, she's a shining. So you can see on the hood, you know, the paint's, like I said, you know, this is crap paint. It's really bad paint. So it's got all these little streaks and stuff in it. Hopefully you can kind of see it. That's in the paint. That won't come out. I can make it a little bit shinier than it usually is, but that's in there. But, I mean, you can tell the hood shined up right nice. And then as we come on down the side, you know, if you notice, I would not be able to do this in my underwear. Y'all guys would see me in my underwear. Not that I would. So anyways, so now it's got this thing shining up real nice. That black is real deep. It's especially like this door. If you remember, this door was really kind of chalky. Not super chalky, but chalky enough. But I mean, you know, it gives a good finish. So you know, did that, came up here on the roof. Like I said, only went out to, you know, roughly where the paint stops. So did all this. Again, crappy paint, but it turned out okay. You know, this is actually, I think, the best paint on the truck is this section right here, because I don't think this part's ever been painted. So this stuff comes out real nice. Getting on back here to the back side of the bed, it's okay. It's about the same as the doors. This guy, like I said earlier, this paint's real thin. There ain't much I can do with that. If I hit it with the high speed, it basically starts turning white or gray. because there's just not enough paint there. So yeah, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and drag down those other fenders and get the body work done on them, paint them, and probably end up painting at least the bed. I won't be doing that anytime soon. Because once I start, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to be like, I'm going nuts with the DA sander. So I'm just not going to do that. Yeah, I mean, overall though, she is super, super shiny. And yeah, I mean, I haven't done this in like 2 years. So I did this like 2 years ago when I first put the truck together, and it looked amazing. I may tomorrow try to drag this outside and so you can see it in the sunlight, because it'll really pop out there. Inside the shop, the lights just don't do it justice. But unfortunately, it's raining. It's raining hard right now. So it's supposed to rain all the way through the morning. So I don't know if it's going to clear up enough to where I can get this. Well, actually, I do have to get this out of here so I can get Steve pulled in. But I don't know if it's going to be sunny or not. So yeah. So in the morning, I guess we'll maybe I'll pull this out and try to get a shot of it tomorrow morning. But yeah. So real nice deep dark blacks. Don't really see any swirls. Again, swirl marks are really hard to see inside. You get them out in the sunshine and they're going to be going, you know, you'll be able to see it. All that being said, it's amazing what a little, you know, elbow grease, some ibuprofen, and, you know, some icy hot probably for my shoulders, because this is a hell of a shoulder workout. But I think I've been at this now for 4.5 hours, 5 hours, 4.5, 5 hours. I've got half the truck done. That's also me getting everything set up and dragging all this stuff out and talking to y'all folks and trying to get all this stuff done. So it's a little slower than it usually would be, but, and it's a big truck. I forget the overall length of this damn truck, but it's long. I forget. I mean, my truck, my shop is 28 feet long, and I've got, I think, about 1.5 foot, maybe 2 foot back there. And then here's the front of it. There's the back wall right there. So, you know, 22, 24 feet, maybe. I don't know, 22 feet. Something like that. It's a long ass truck. It's a lot of real estate to do. So, yeah, so, you know, 4 or 5 hours. A little bit of elbow grease. Definitely going to need some ibuprofen later. And you can make it shine up. You know, like I said earlier, it is like polishing a turd, but I mean, it's my turd. I'm proud of my turd, and I want people to see my turd. I almost got that out straight. But I'm proud of my truck. I do want to make it look as good as I possibly can when I go out and show it off. You know, take it out to the car shows and the coffee, you know, cars and coffees and cruise-ins and stuff. I like showing it off. You know, I mean, I put a lot of work into this truck. So I'm proud of it, and you guys should be too. You know, if you've got a truck or a car or what have you, hell, even if it's just an old wheelbarrow, and you're proud of it, by God, put a coat of wax on that thing, buff it out, make it shine up and look really nice, and make it shine up real nice. It'll give you a nice big, you know, feeling of accomplishment, you know. And then take it out, show it off, man. Let people see it, and then you'll be surprised. You know, folks come up and they'll talk about, you know, stuff, you know, like, man, I really like that, and you know, or like I said, if you got a wheelbarrow that you're proud of and you take it out somewhere to one of these cruises, and somebody's gonna be like, that is the shiniest damn wheelbarrow I've ever seen. So you're gonna get to strike up a conversation with somebody, you know, have a good time with it. So, but yeah, I mean, seriously, guys, you know, take time. Polish it up a little bit, you know, and make it a little bit nicer. You'll enjoy it a little bit more. It's a lot of work, but man, I've only got to do this every 3 years until I paint it, maybe, eventually. Don't know if that'll ever happen. But if I've only got to do this every couple of years, okay, what's a good 8-hour day every couple of years to make this truck shine up real nice? But anyways, with all that being said, get out there, do something to your rod, you know, clean her up, polish it up, you know, even if it is a turd, man. Just give it a little spit shine, polish that turd up, take it out and show folks, you know. take it out and cruise it. Just have a good time. Just knowing that, hey, I did this and this thing's awesome. If it's only in your eyes that it's awesome, that's all that matters. So, so anyways, I'm going to jump off here. I've got this entire other side to do. I may be walking around with one shoulder held slightly lower tomorrow because, damn, that's a lot. But yeah, I'm going to jump off. I'm going to get over here, pull this mirror, and go ahead and knock out this driver's side, get this thing done, and then I can kind of do some of my little final stuff, final cleanup and stuff like that on this guy. Quick note before I duck off, whenever you're doing buffing and waxing and all that good stuff, go back and wipe your jams. So all the wax and buff and everything that I'm slinging, you might kind of see it's a little chalky looking in there. So that's going to be leftovers from doing all the work up here. It's going to be down here in your hood jam. It's going to be in the front and rear door jams. So you just open it up and just take you a towel and just wipe the edge, both edges down. You might want to blow it out. Might want to wash it out with some water, whatever. But just wipe down all your jams and your edges. You know, just walk around with a towel and just kind of get in there and just kind of wipe all that stuff down. Because eventually all that stuff's going to dry out and it's going to be real chalky and it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. So, so that's it. So I'm going to get off here. I'm going to get over there. I'm going to get this driver's side done. And then I want to call it night. So I guess I will see you guys in the morning. All right, folks. Good morning. So, Big John's out of the shop. It's not a sunny day. I'm disappointed in the weather for that. It's very overcast and a little windy, so I apologize if the microphone picks up a bunch of wind. But you can see a little bit better as to what's going on with the paint, you know, how smooth and silky smooth that it looks now that it's out of the shop. So let's do a quick walk around. So you can definitely tell that thing shined up really, really well. So like I said, doing that about, you know, every couple years, it's fine. It is painful. My shoulders are killing me, holding that buffer out and then sitting there, you know, working everything. Yeah, it'll wear them shoulders out. So anyhow, really pleased with how that looks. Should be good for a couple years. It's nice and slick. I actually, last night before I went inside, I actually put another coat of wax on it, and let that sit and harden up overnight. And I came out here this morning and wiped that down and got it, super, super slick. It was actually funny as I was getting a little hot. So I took my hat off and just kind of set it on the hood and it just zip right off the hood. So paint is very slick. So anyhow, that's going to wrap it up for this week. You know, I know it's not anything super awesome, but it's good informative stuff. You know, a lot of folks, they're afraid to start working buffers and doing stuff because they're scared to death they're going to tear something up. Like I said earlier, go to a junkyard, get you an old fender, door, something, old hood. They're pretty cheap. You know, just make sure it's actually got paint on it. And then that way you can actually practice with the buffer, you know, learn the machine, learn how it likes to operate. And then you can kind of get a little bit of idea how the paint's going to react to certain things. So anyways, I hope this was a good and informative episode. Y'all guys, drop me a comment. Let me know if you've got a different technique you use. Sure, throw it down there. If you've got different, you know, machines that you use, different buffers. They make all sorts of different buffers. I've just got, I think it's a 7-inch for the high speed and a 6-inch, or maybe it's an 8-inch and a 6-inch. I can't remember. I know my little DA polisher is a 6-inch. They make them down in like, you know, 1-inch, 2-inch. They make these itty bitty little guys. Those are more for your, you know, your real full-time detailer guys. So you can get down in all those little nooks and crannies and stuff. So I do appreciate y'all guys watching, tuning in every week. That helps me to keep on track with, you know, getting out here and doing stuff. So I do appreciate it. Questions, comments, concerns, throw them down below. Like I said earlier, most of the stuff that I've bought off of Amazon, I threw links down below as well. If you got any questions about, some of the stuff I've used, or anything along those lines, throw it down in the comments. My social media stuff's down below. I don't really check messages on social media. I do have my email address. I do check those. So if you got any questions or anything, be sure and just give me a shout. Whatever. I'll get back with you as soon as I can. But thanks again for watching. And y'all get out there and polish them turds. And just remember, it ain't got to be perfect. It's just got to be good enough. We'll holler at y'all later.